evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you for taking the time to join us tonight at this very important action meeting. My name is Nancy Costa. I'm a member of St. Anthony of Padua Parish, a single mother of a fourth grader in the Fall River Public School System, and a leader in United Interfaith Action. To keep the house in order tonight, I'd like to remind everyone of the following. We do have an agenda that we need to follow. We do have a timekeeper up front, Janice, and we're going to respect everyone's time. Questions will be asked by research team members. Please feel free to cheer on any statements that you agree with, but please be respectful of those that you do not, and please remain silent. And speaking of silence, please put your cell phones on silent also, or vibrate. And remember, there are various congregations here tonight, so we need to respect all different traditions. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to make specific proposals to our officials to improve our city in the areas of education and youth, immigration, and addiction, and to hear how they feel about these proposals and if they are willing to take action. UIA is important to me because I am a mother, and the children are our future, and the future cannot wait. Every child deserves the best education possible, regardless of their abilities or what background they come from. We need to keep our children safe in this city, and we need to provide them with every opportunity in the world to become successful adults. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our officials. State Representative Alan Sylvia. We are also expecting State Representative Carol Fiola. Sergeant Stephen Burt from the Fall River Police Department is here with us this evening. Our Superintendent of Schools, Matthew Malone. And our Mayor, JZL Correa. Now please help me welcome Father Jeff, who will lead us in our opening prayer tonight.
Good evening. Let us begin our time together realizing that we're in the presence of our good and gracious God. Lord, we gather here this evening realizing that our actions matter. Our actions for good, for justice, for equality, for those in need. Our actions matter because we are all brothers and sisters. Despite our differences, despite our different faith traditions, we are all one community under one God, one community affected by the same problems and issues, the issues we wish to raise up to you, O Lord, this day, the issues we wish to confront, to uphold, to change, because we won't sacrifice our community, we won't sacrifice our children and youth, we won't sacrifice those who are suffering from addiction, we won't sacrifice the immigrant and the stranger, because our actions matter. Our actions matter for our young people, our youth, our children who are a wonderful gift from God. Our actions matter because we want our children to be truly educated, to become productive members of society. As President John F. Kennedy once said, a child miseducated is a child lost. Our actions matter for those suffering from addiction, because no one can overcome addiction on their own. They need God's help, yes, but they also need the help from their community, from God's people, a system and a structure to face their addictions head on, with people to help them, care for them, support them, a place to go when they feel powerless. Because those who are addicted are our brothers and sisters in need, made in the image and likeness of God. As Pope Francis once said, I would reaffirm what I have stated on another occasion. No to every type of drug use. It's as simple as that. But to say this no, one has to say yes to life, yes to love, yes to others, yes to education, yes to greater job opportunities. If we say yes to all these things, there will be no room for illicit drugs, for alcohol abuse, or for other forms of addiction. Our actions matter for the immigrant, the refugee, the stranger. As God commanded the Israelites, you shall also love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Abraham was an immigrant, called forth by God to a new land. The Israelites wandered in the desert for 40 years to reach the promised land. We are reminded time and time again, Lord, to welcome the stranger, to not deprive an immigrant of justice, to do no wrong or violence to the alien. Yes, Lord, our actions matter. Our actions matter for ourselves, for our families, for our community, for our young people, for those suffering from addiction, for the immigrant. Lord, inspire those here tonight, the members of UIA, the members of our community, our elected and public officials, that they may all realize that our actions do matter. As a wise saint once said, actions speak louder than words. Let your words teach and your actions speak. We pray that our words tonight may inspire, promote, and teach, and hope that our actions will indeed follow. Lord God, may everything we do begin with your inspiration and continue with your help, so that all our prayers and works may begin in you and by you be happily ended. Glory and praise to you forever and ever. Amen.
Good evening. You just heard St. Anthony of Padua Choir. And as you were walking in, we had the Santa Cristo Choir singing. My name is Victor Medeiros, and I am a leader in UIA and represent our parish of Santa Cristo. It's been a tough day. What is UIA? UIA is United Interfaith Action. It is a faith-based nonprofit organization founded in 1997, and it is made up of congregations from Fall River and New Bedford, and on certain issues, the surrounding towns also participate. They all get together and try to improve their community to make it a better place for all. And that is why I'm here tonight, because I'm concerned about what is going on in my community. I'm concerned about the problems that plague my community, and I am trying to help in any way I can to make a positive change. UIA listens to the concerns of the community, researches solutions, and acts on proposals like the ones we have here tonight. UIA's past accomplishments have been many. Increasing funding for ESL and high school equivalency programs, helping pass Shannon anti-gang violence grant program, and using some of those funds to hire street outreach workers to get the children off the streets and prevent them from getting into gangs. UIA has also been was also instrumental in raising the minimum wage, which put more food on the table and more clothing on the backs of our children. It's going to be a great evening, and I thank you again for being here. Look at everyone in this hall. Some of you may be strangers to each other. Some of you are strangers to your eyes, but to your hearts, they're your brothers and sisters, and in the eyes of God, you are all brothers and sisters. We're all here for a different reason, but in some way, everyone is hurting. Everyone is hurting in some way. Whether your child or grandchild has issues in school, a family member has immigration issues, or a family member has overdosed, you all hurt in some way. I will now tell you where your brothers and sisters come from and what churches they belong to. We have the Catholic community of Central Fall River, English, Spanish, and Brazilian communities. We have Christ the Rock, Assembly of God Church. St. Luke's Episcopal Church. St. Anthony of Padua. And of course, our own, who are grateful that you're here, our own Santa Cristo Church. And the Unitarian Church. I'm sorry.
Good evening, officials, and good evening to all of you. Boa noite. Buenas noches. My name is Odette Amarelo, and I am a member in UIA and also a member of St. Michael Church. We are a group of leaders in UIA who incorporate our beliefs in our daily lives. We are like an extended family. We are volunteers before work, after work, and in between. For a year, we went into the community and listened to people's concerns. The voice that we heard was in pain. The young ones crying for help with their new learning in school, the older ones being tempted by the opioids, and the adults were navigating without a captain throughout the unknown. And there were the immigrants. The immigrants were abandoned by their own motherlands and being rejected by the diaspora. We felt the sacrifice that each one of them was making. We also met with the officials. We met with school principals, with teachers, police officials, and school service agency leaders. In here, we have a jar with buttons. Each button represents, symbolizes a child that was sacrificed during the World War II. 1,500,000 children were sacrificed. We do not want one more child to be sacrificed. We are determined to accomplish what we believe is justice. We are determined to offer what is right for every child and every adult. We are determined to continue to work until we have a healthy, literate, emotional, and social Fall River community. Well, in another tone now, you have inside of your agenda, you have a card. You are going to hear questions and testimonies. And we are inviting each one of you to become a member and a participant of Fall River UIA. So please write your name, your contact, and we will be collecting them at the end. Muito obrigada e que Deus vos abençoe.
Good evening. My name is Kit Tuddy, and I'm a member of the United Interfaith Action and a representative of the Unitarian Church. We are now moving into the heart of tonight's meeting. We will start with the issue of education and youth. The research committee leaders will present testimony and ask a yes/no question directed individually to one or more of our officials. Officials will have 1 minute to respond. I'd like to also clarify for the audience that the officials have already seen these questions during previous meetings with United Interfaith Action members. And in addition, due to time and agenda constraints, we are not able to take questions from the audience this evening, but invite anyone who is interested in the work that we do to fill out those cards and become a member, consider becoming a member of United Interfaith Action.
Boa noite. Encontro-me aqui como membro do UIA.
Good evening. I am here as a member of in UIA.
Vivo na cidade de Fall River, pertence à Igreja de Santo Antônio.
I reside in Fall River and I am a member of St. Anthony Church.
Eu gostaria de falar da educação de juventude.
I would like to address the youth and education.
Os alunos precisam de professores que falaram mais de uma língua.
The students need teachers that do speak more than one language.
para os alunos compreenderem aquilo que eles ensinam.
For the students will need to understand what is the new learning.
Aluno fica em casa por dias ou semanas de doença, deveria ter programa para que não fique atrasado na classe.
When a student is absent a day or a week from sickness, that should have a program to be able, the student to catch up with the new learning.
Os alunos deveriam ter muito mais bem informados sobre o álcool e a droga.
The students should have more information regarding alcohol and drugs.
Férias de verão
Summer vacation.
deveriam ter umas horas no dia com transporte para atividade nos parques para os alunos.
Should have free transportation for the students to go to the parks and to participate in the activities.
Eu sou pai e avô.
I am a father and a grandfather.
Eu quero o melhor para as nossas juventudes.
I want the best for our youth.
Hello, everyone. My name is Trot Lee. My church is Christ the Rock Assembly of God, and I'm a leader in UIA. Our UIA meetings had goals to improve not only our education system, but programs that specifically helped our youth. This especially was important to me growing up in Fall River, not always having the most positive influences in my life. And in my professional career working with children, there's always one thing clear, that the youth, they need programs with role models, they need programs that have positive influences in their community. It's completely undeniable. In all our discussions across the board, everyone we've met with Dr. Malone and many others, youth leaders, the youth themselves, educators, they all agreed that the social emotional component was the top priority all the way across the board. The social emotional component focuses on the fact that children, sometimes they have problems at home, sometimes they have problems in their community, sometimes they have bullying problems. The social emotional component addresses that. We were also informed of 2 successful after-school programs in the education system. Not every school in Fall River has after-school programming. They don't have the funding for it quite yet. And Henry Lord, the Truce program was a very important one, and the extended learning time at CUS, both through conversation with the principals and students, gave us that information that they improved on truancy, school violence, bullying, and so forth, although there is still more work to be done. So Dr. Malone, based on this information, I have a 2-part question for you. And I have one for you, sir, Mr. Mayor. Dr. Malone, based on our needs to address the social emotional component and the successes of the after-school programs, first, will you support funding an expansion of after-school programming to all our schools? Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, I know you're pressed for time, so I'm gonna jump up and get to you first. Mr. Mayor, we spoke with you about this specific topic. You informed us of the limited city funding. So our question to you is, knowing that you are limited on your city funding, would you explore alternative options to expand after-school programming to all the schools in Fall River?
I get to kick this off. Excellent. Good evening, everyone. Boa noite. Nice to see everybody. First and foremost, big thank you to this group. What a fantastic event. Obviously, being the mayor, you go to a lot of events, a lot of forums, debates, things like that, and this is the best one I've seen so far. Seriously, this is really... I was talking with my staff. You know, I didn't know what to expect. I'm not sure what everybody else did, but this is just truly very organized. I love the diversity in terms of the different people that are speaking different languages here. And I got the 30-second card, so I'm going to have to use this time very efficiently. So we do have programming money that is put into the budget, this budget, due to some of the additional stuff that the state has allowed us to do with funding. there is money in the budget for the Truce program that goes just beyond also donations. So it's actually $25,000 this year in the budget for Truce. We're going to explore other options, Community Development Agency, federal dollars. And really it comes down to continuing to change the Chapter 70 formula, the way that the state gives money for education to communities like Fall River. Fall River doesn't have the amount of wealth some other communities in the state of Massachusetts has, and that formula really is important to be changed, and I know there are a lot of people working on that. So we'll get into some more of that later, but my stop is there, and I want to respect everybody's time.
Thank you, sir.
But thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. So to Lori, just to on that first question, it's a yes from both the mayor and Dr. Malone on that first question. Now, Dr. Malone, on the second question, because we want to address the social emotional component, we want to give that the respect it deserves. We did the research, and there is a program called the Rennie Center that focuses on teaching and working with educational staff and students on the social emotional component. So the second question to you is, would you explore joining the Rennie Center on social emotional learning?
So I'm not going to raise a yes or no on this one, and I'm going to tell you why. Right now, we're already working with the Rennie Center on the SEL, but we're not part of that specific network yet. We're looking at that, but we're in part of 3 other networks, all doing the social emotional learning work. So the answer to your question, I know you like yes, no's, you like definitives. This one is a little more nuanced as we're exploring it.
Well, Dr. Malone, just to be clear, I asked if you would explore it. and
There you
said
go.
already
I said
had.
explore, you said explore.
So as far as I'm concerned, that would be a yes that you're exploring that option. So thank you very much.
We are going to touch upon the education youth concern. Education, education, education. The day that we all believe that education is the answer, we will be on the right path. We cannot sacrifice one more child, not one more child. The students that are not attending daily school, we are sacrificing them. The students that are agonizing with the MCAS, we are sacrificing them. The students that are struggling learning English, we are sacrificing them. The students that have no support at home, we are sacrificing them. The students that are missing breakfast, we are sacrificing them. The students that cannot do homework, we are sacrificing them. The students that need an after-school program, we are sacrificing them. The 1993 Education Reform Act committed to annual increase in state education funding to communities like Fall River. This commitment was broken since 2003, and the state fell over $1 billion. Well, now the state reps, Carol Fiore, Alan Sylvia, and Paul Schmidt. You all know that Fall River schools need more funding. We know that. The governor made a proposal that is going to take 7 years and only gives us a few million in the new funding. And you know that it's not enough. So now a question to the two of you, because Paul Schmidt is not here.
He gives his regrets that he could not be here, as you know.
The question is, I believe that you know what I'm about to say, that will affect generations. The funding necessary for our children will impact their education and opportunities in their lives. Now, will you advocate really hard for our children in our city? Speaker DeLeo, how important this is that we get a bill that comes very close as possible to 35 million for our city?
Just hold off the 35 for a minute, only because there's a number that could go higher, it could go around there, so exactly 35? A lot, though.
Okay,
A lot.
close,
How's that?
close.
Yes, a lot.
Okay.
A lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Now you have a minute.
Thank you, Odette, and to the entire UIA. This is a fabulous, as the mayor said, a fabulous turnout. We spend every day working on very important issues, especially education. Odette mentioned the formula that delivers 80% of the funds to Fall River for its school budget still isn't enough. We are working now, after a long time evaluating it, on changing the formula so that more economically challenged communities, and yes, that would be Fall River, get a higher percentage than other communities. We already do, but we need even more. But just to give you an example, Odette, you said we wanted $35 million more. Based on our budget, just this year alone, before we even touch the formula, Fall River is likely to see $11 million more, bringing the total of state dollars to about $130 million of the budget right from the state. So that's an $11 million before we even do the formula adjustment. You have our commitment. We're working very hard. Whether it's called the Promise Act, whether it's called the Tucker bill, we are going to have a bill at some point.
Thank you.
And we're going to make
Thank you
it
so much.
benefit Fall River. Thank you.
Thank you. Rep. Viola said it best. I don't know how to speak for a minute. Any of you know me? I can't speak for a minute. I don't want to leave anyone out, especially the Unitarians. I want to leave no one out. Listen, education is very important to us. Every day that we attend budget hearings, Rep. Viola and I are both on the Committee for Ways and Means, where the dollars are controlled. Every meeting, every concern we have is to raise the dollars for gateway cities like Fall River to ensure that they get more, because we feel that we got less in the past. We want our share now, we want more. And we're doing that in early childhood education, and the list goes on and on. All of those issues you talked about, Odette, about nutrition, about after-school programs, that's what we do. We do that all the time. That's our major focus.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Representative Carol Fayola and Ellen Sylvia, thank you.
And Representative Schmidt, as I said to you, Odette, could not be here and extended his regrets.
Thank you. Now, I would like to address a question to Dr. Matthew Malone, the Superintendent of Schools. But before the question is, well, Dr. Malone, you know that we are bringing to you a list of priorities from the community. Such needs for our schools as small class sizes, after-school programs, taking on a social, emotional learning, and more school adjustment and guidance counselors. Now the question, Dr. Malone, are you willing to meet with UIA before you make decisions on the 2020-21 budget to take into consideration these priorities?
Everyone but you. Now, just so everyone...
Thank you, Dr. Malone. You have a minute.
Just so everyone knows, this is something I already committed to previously. This is something that's very important. I do have to say our school committee is focused on every issue that has already been brought to us. More adjustment counselors. You're going to see that in this year's budget.
Thank you.
Smaller class sizes, commitment they made 3 years ago and haven't walked away from it. So the governance team in the district is focused on these things. So they're financially supporting those through the budget process. So we're lucky that we have the governance in place that we have. In the field, we're working on all of the things that have already been talked about. You know, this issue of bilingual education. What does it mean? How do we become a dual language model district? The gold standard of second language instruction. These are things that we are exploring and working on. I have the best people in the Commonwealth right now working on this in the Fall River Public Schools. So you can rest assured that we're going to continue to improve, we're going to continue to collaborate, and we're going to continue to be transparent in all of our work.
Thank you so very much.
Hello again, everyone. First of all, I just want to say I completely agree with everything that Odette and Gil had mentioned previously. There is no doubt that the education system in Fall River needs some major improvements. And for that, we need more funds. There is no doubt about that at all. As a single mother of a 4th grade student in the Fall River Public School System, my main concern is the MCAS testing. Why am I worried about this? Because my 9-year-old son comes home from school feeling like he isn't good enough. He doesn't always learn and understand things the way that MCAS demands, and the results are absolutely awful. He's upset, he's frustrated, and he's anxious. As a mother, it's heartbreaking when I see my child feeling that way. No child should ever be made to feel that they are not good enough. There was one homework assignment that he had that went back and forth between the teacher and I 4 times. He had all the correct answers, but he was not achieving them the way that MCAS demanded. Not every child has the same abilities. Not every child learns in the same way. This experience is causing trauma and stress to our children, and our teachers are frustrated of teaching by the test. When we consider our students with special needs, we are just adding so much more unnecessary anxiety. Do you think this is fair? I don't. Not at all. I felt helpless, and that's exactly the reason why I'm here tonight, why I'm part of the UIA. Because I, as a mother, do not want to have to sacrifice my child anymore. None of you in this room should have to sacrifice your children anymore. There are, in fact, other ways. School districts like Attleboro and Boston have formed a group called the Massachusetts Consortium for Innovative Education and Assessment, better known as MCIEA. This is a different way to assess student learning. Teachers are trained to assess students using written reports, constructed projects, and hands-on and oral presentations that better represent what the students are learning. Attleboro shared that their students are more energized and excited to come to school to learn in that way. And that's exactly how our kids in Fall River should feel as well. So, with that being said, my question is for Superintendent Malone. Will you lead the Fall River Public School System to join MCIEA Alternative Teaching for MCAS as a way to give our teachers and principals access to training and to support our students? And I remind you, you have 1 minute to explain your answer.
Great. So see this? You know what this means? Yeah, let me explain to you what that means. So I want to be real clear with folks. Massachusetts follows state law, which requires assessment. We receive federal funds that also requires assessment. So testing is not an opt-out. It is a requirement for every single child in the Commonwealth. The only way you get a diploma is to pass the MCAS. That's the law, and we can rail about the law, but unless we change the law, there's nothing we can do about it. Having said that to you, the MCEIA is a wonderful organization that's focused on looking at other types of assessments. There's actually state line item money in the state budget, sponsored by Senator Jalen started this, to support this work. The group's a great group. We're talking to them right now. It's run out of the Dan French's organization up in Boston. I'll think of the name of them in a second. But the other districts that are participating are friends of ours. We're talking to them right now about joining because the professional development that comes along with it is exceptional. So we're exploring it. Stand by and we'll see where we end up in the process. But I will
Okay.
be clear. We are mission focused and we keep a laser-like focus on our mission, meaning I don't like to go rabbit holes that get me off core purpose. Core purpose is caring about the kids in Fall River. So we're exploring it, but I'm not committing yet until I know the time commitment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
So Dr. Malone, thank you so much for your answer. And I just want to clarify that that's a maybe,
Yeah.
correct? Thank you.
It's a maybe.
So moving along to our next issue, which is immigration. Leaders of the immigration research team will again give testimony and ask yes/no questions, and 1 minute is available for responses from our officials.
Good evening. My name is Sarah, and I belong to the St. Mary's Cathedral Spanish community. And I am a leader of United Interfaith Action of Fall River. When you look at me, what do you see? When you hear me speak, what assumptions do you make? Some of you are probably thinking that I am Mexican and undocumented. Let me tell you a story. A few months ago, I was driving home from a nice relaxed moment at the movies with my kids when I was pulled over by a police officer. And as soon as I asked why was I being pulled over, the police officer asked me, "Can you understand me? Do you speak English?" Which made me very nervous, and I started to stutter, which made him even more upset, to the point that my children, especially my 5-year-old, started crying. Well, at this point, I was nervous and angry, not because I was pulled over, but because the police officer wasn't taking the time to communicate with me, and the fact that he was making my child cry. I really wanted to understand why I was being pulled over, and till this day, I don't know why. One thing I know is that my 5-year-old panics every time he sees a police officer. Our community should feel that they trust the police officers and that they are here to protect us and not to hide from them. My story is the story of almost everyone that looks like me, but I get to share my story because I am a citizen. My friends that are not citizens are afraid to share the stories, but I am not afraid to share mine. No one should be afraid to go up to a police officer and tell them their stories. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. My name is Felix Gonzalez. I'm from St. Mary Cathedral, Hispanic community, and UAA leader. After listening to Sarah's testimony, we realize how our brothers and sisters feel not welcome. And not because they are undocumented. Often, just because they seem like immigrants. We know that not all police officers want to show themselves like that. That's for sure. The sheriff has made it clear he wants the chief of police, sorry. Thank you for correcting me that one. The chief of police, he wants the whole community feel like they can trust them. But Sarah's testimony, unfortunately, is real. Thankfully, we do not only came here to present problems. We came here to propose solutions. Something that could help on that matter is that the members of the police that can take some kind of training so they can converse on with our community in the multiple languages that exist here in our beautiful and culturally rich city of Fall River. So, Sergeant Byrd, I want to hear this clear. Will the police department train his staff in conversational dialogue in different languages, such as Spanish, Khmer, Portuguese, so they can work with all residents of Fall River for a safety city?
Once again, it's one of those questions you can't answer yes or no, but at this time we have at least 3 officers that speak Spanish. There's a multitude of officers that grew up that are bilingual in Portuguese, and we have 1 Khmer-speaking officer. If there is any programs out there that we'd be able to take advantage of, we would consider sending officers for that bilingual training to be able to have conversational language skills with the parties that you're asking.
Thank you very much. UIA is yeah. So UIA is always will be, always welcome you and always be available. So in anything that we can help to make this goal get achieved, okay? You can count on us.
Thank you.
People like me, we leave our countries fleeing the abuse of practically dictatorial governments, police abuse, where we don't know for whom to fear more, to fear more. If fear more for criminals or the authorities themselves. A societies where machismo is encouraged. Women and families are constantly abused. My story, I was driving on the street like a normal citizen, followed the rules. Someone hit my car from behind. I pulled over and I saw a police officer and I approached the police. The other guy also pulled over. But while he was walking to the police and me, he was trying to accommodate a fire gun in her waist. The police says to me, "You should go." And I said, "What? Really? Are you kidding me?" He said, "Yes, you should go because that guy has a gun." I said, "Yes, that's what I'm come to you. So you protect me." He says, "I have a family too, and I don't know if that guy is the son of some politician or a guy or some high-ranked military man." I said, "Oh my God, that's enough." Then I decide to move over because I want something better for my family. I want you to imagine that you are in the same situation. That many people like me in this room, imagine you don't have rights, you don't have voice, you don't have job, you don't have safety. The fear of your child not returning home one night. Then imagine you come to United States and you start facing new abuse. Could be domestic, could be domestic violence, could be theft, could be so many challenges. You cannot turn anywhere. You are afraid. Let's change that. Show our community that you care more about humanity than paperwork. Make this commitment to them today. Assure them that you support them. U-Visas is a program who enable immigrants to get documentation if they have been victim of crime. It protects them if they choose to come forward. So, Sergeant Byrd, will the police department commit to sign off on U-Visa applications, helping all victims of crime get on path of documentation and be freed from their situation? In particular, it will be in cases when there has not been prosecution, but the victim is still cooperating.
Once again, you just asked about 3 or 4 questions all in the same sentence. So we're going to start at the very beginning. The U visas are applied for by the district attorney's office on people who are going to be willing to give testimony either as a victim or a witness on behalf of the state, and then it's applied to for the federal government. That application process is going to go through the district attorney's office at this time. That's the format that we've set up for that. It's not outside of the realm of possibility of people who are victims where there are no charges being pending. We'll have to look at that at a case-by-case scenario and take a look at that, and there is a possibility that we would take that into consideration. But anybody that's here that's, should get equal enforcement under the law, so we will try to accommodate that. The instances that you had, I hope, are isolated incidences, and I would not hope that that will not portray the rest of the department in a bad light.
So we just want to point out that we in conversation we have with the chief of police, he said that he will look into it, and then if it's not case of prosecution, he will, Sandra can correct me if I'm wrong, so if there is no prosecution, so he will consider to sign up those applications, right? So that's why we want to know if it's a yes or no. I don't know if it's...
That's exactly what I just said.
Okay, great, good, thank you very much.
My faith believes in abundance. There's more than enough in our country for everyone. We've been talking all night about our children's. We are clear no one should be sacrificed. As a parent, you want to do all you can to provide, keep safe, and promise your children a better tomorrow. We live in a beautiful city that just does not have enough public transportation. With our driver's license, our brothers and sisters are being forced to choose between breaking the law or providing this future for their children. 12 other states now allow undocumented immigrants to get driver's licenses. We can change that too. And to complete our efforts to ensure that our brothers and sisters feel as safe as possible, our next question is for our state delegation. We would like to see our police focusing their resources to prevent and fight crimes and let the corresponding agencies focus on migration. Representatives Sylvia and Fiola, will you support the bill for driver's licenses for all residents of Massachusetts?
And can't answer like that, yes, no, there are a lot of issues, but I'll go first.
I'll take it after you.
You have 1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute. In 2016, our colleague Tricia Foley-Bouvier, Representative Pittsfield, filed the legislation so that undocumented immigrants could drive a motor vehicle legally in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Representative Fiola and I at that time, along even Rep. Schmidt, we supported those efforts then. That went into committee, and although 12 other states, including the District of Columbia, have that, there were so many roadblocks with regard to federal law, Department of Transportation, the new Real ID program with access to airlines, and how it couldn't be used for benefits, how it couldn't be used for other purposes. So there was going to be a special ID, however, it never got off the ground. And as much as whether we support it or not, our federal delegation should be doing something about this. I wish our Congress, if you listen to the news, they spend no time on these issues of a comprehensive immigration reform package or health care or those issues. That's what would solve this, so we could have a speedy path to citizenship, so that you could get a license.
Thank you. Was that a yes or no?
It's a no, it's a middle, it's a middle. We said a maybe. So I think as Rep. Sylvia said, the bill's been filed. We've had a little bit of discussion. The bill has been filed now. There has not been a hearing on it. So we don't know what the conversation's going to be, but I invite you all to weigh in on that conversation as you are now, and possibly even at the State House. The devil's in the details. Rep. Sylvia said, you know, sounds great. Yes, should an undocumented person who's here and been here, law-abiding, doing the right things, have ability to have a license? Yeah, they probably should. But it's a lot easier said than done. The governor's not going to sign it. And as Rep. Sylvia said, where's our federal delegation? Invite the senators, Markey and Warren and Congressman Keating and Congressman Kennedy. Those are the questions you want to ask them. They should be at this table as well, because that's where this has to happen. We can't continue with this crazy immigration problem that we keep talking about and used as a pawn. Let's figure out how we're going to make this work. And it's beyond driver's licenses, although, and I will just say one other thing, until this UIA meeting last month, that was the first a constituent ever came to me on the issue. And we have 5,000, 6,000 bills. So we're dealing with many levels of bills and priorities. But keep in front of us, keep telling us your stories, and that's how we get things done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving along. Ooh, he was taller than me. Moving along to our final issue, which is addiction.
Good evening. My name is Richard Cabral, and I'm a parishioner at St. Anthony of Padua's Church here in Fall River, and I'm a member of UIA. I'm here today to help shed light on the epidemic that is addiction. Having grown up in a home where drugs and alcohol were unavoidable, I was raised by parents who both battled addiction. My father lost his battle when I was 8, as he had died from overdosing. During his life, and while I lived with him, it was evident that he was dependent on the drugs that he took regularly. My mom, a caring and loving person who always wanted the best for her children, could never quit her addiction to prescription drugs, even though it was creating a detrimental divide between her and her children. She, too, lost her battle with addiction when I was 14. At 14, I was orphaned due to addiction. My life was forever changed by circumstances that were ultimately out of my hands and out of the hands of my parents. The opportunity to learn about the effects of drugs and their manipulative properties would have served great use to my parents. For the generations now and ahead, teaching them from a young age that drugs are more than just bad for you, that they are addictive and cause divides between them and their loved ones. Let them read and learn of the truth rather than go through it themselves. Thank you.
My name is Mary Lou Dubois. I'm from the Fall River Seventh-day Adventist Church. I want to thank you, and I want to thank all of you for joining forces to help us battle this deadly disease. I am 65 years old. I have 11 years clean. You do the math. But when you think about it, 65 with 11 years clean, that tells you how long I've struggled. Fact is, I was in 10 short-term rehab stints and 5 different intensive outpatient treatment programs. It wasn't until my last arrest, when I threw my hands up and I said, God, you take it, because I can't do it, that I got long-term recovery, that I went to a long-term treatment, and that's how I got this victory. But I'm going to tell you that my church goes every Sunday to start to do a life recovery ministry there with the STEP program. It's a Christian STEP program. And when we go into that waiting room, there are 2 or 3 people sitting there every week that are sick, but they have beds. There are people out there that are not getting beds. They're calling every day and they're not getting them, and waiting is deadly. The newspaper just this week published 497 opioid overdose deaths in Massachusetts, 2019, in just the first 3 months. When we go to do the Bible study, I ask them, is this your first time? Nah. 3rd time, 5th time, 7th time, 15th time in rehab. And why is that? Because our rehabs are not treating it as a threefold disease of body, mind, and spirit. We deal with the body, food, beds, and meds, but spiritually, AA and NA are spiritually based programs. When you give your life and your will over to the care of God, when you ask God to take away your defects of character. But we are doing very little in the rehabs to teach people how to connect with that God. And then when they leave there, we need more money funded into centers like the River to Recovery, where they're open every single day, where there can be different kinds of meetings, educational meetings, health and well-being meetings, intensive, medicated assisted programs, family and children, AA, NA, 12-step programs, and Christian-based recovery. If you ask any addict who has long-term recovery, the first 2 words out of their mouth, thank God. Thank God. And so they've been in hell. And as far as you just heard the testimony of a young man that sat in our schools, both parents died from addiction. We have children sitting in our classrooms that are directly affected by a drug addiction. And we are not dealing with it the way it should be dealt with. There's too many kids. Every kid knows somebody, whether it's an aunt, an uncle, a brother, a sister, a neighbor. We all know somebody fighting this disease. So recidivism is too common. Beds are too few. Our rehab programs are too limited in scope. And our school programs are not dealing with the real issues. So here's my question to you. What can you do?
Thank you so much, Richard and Mary Lou. So that challenge, Mary Lou's challenge, is for them, but it's for us too. It's for all of us because we are faith-based communities. It's our job too to bring God to people who are in need. We all have family members, maybe not family members, but we all know people who are suffering from some kind of addiction, from drugs or alcohol. We all struggle in one way or another. And it's our job to help them as much as we can, to at the very least bring them to these services and tell them that there is someone who can really help. My name is Debbie Cabral. I'm a parishioner of St. Anthony of Padua Church and a teacher at Espiritu Santo School and part of UIA. I've lived in Fall River for most of my life, returning with my husband to raise our children here. We from UIA have spent a great deal of time researching addiction, and I was wonderfully surprised by the abundance of services available to people. We've listened to representatives from various groups, and many of them are here, from various services who service those suffering from addiction and found compassionate people who want to see every person living clean, sober, and full lives. In talking to these people on the front line in the fight against addiction, we learned a great deal. We learned that although we have many services in Fall River, there are not enough funds to support those services. And there needs to be a coordination of services and easier access to these services for the people most in need. The HUB program, which has had success in Chelsea, Mass, among 6 other communities, is a roundtable weekly meeting of substance abuse service providers and other community and government agencies. It's like a place that's like the hub of a wheel. It coordinates the services for those people in need. These people meet and discuss individuals who are at risk and respond immediately to the client with the necessary services. And so, Mayor J. Seal Correa, I have a question for you. You already know the question. If the HUB program in Fall River has a successful startup, will you be willing to allocate funds in the next city budget to support this program?
Yes.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I need more than a minute for this question, but I'll try and get as close to the minute as possible. So first and foremost, the answer is yes. We have 2 grants. Beth Font's right here and her team right in the front, along with Sarge, who's up here, and so many volunteers. We have 2 grants right now that may be awarded to us to fund the HUB program. But regardless, we are going to have a HUB program in Fall River every single week for every person in need to get the services they need. That is going to happen regardless, so that's very important. That's right. And the stories we heard, Mary Lou is 100% correct. This is the last question for me, and I do have to leave after this, but I don't want to leave without saying this. So I'm a member of Congress for Christ. And I was baptized in this church, actually, right upstairs. And my connection to God is very important to my daily activity as the mayor. And I know when Mary Lou, what she was saying about the connection to God that is so important in this fight of recovery, and that is so vital And that's something that we all must share together. But what is it? What is it just beside just God? Because all of us here tonight recognize our God. It's really compassion for each other. It's the helping hand. It's not putting somebody down. It's holding out your hand to help somebody else in need, and in this particular case, around drugs. But it's around the other topics we talked about tonight as well: immigration, education, helping the most innocent among us, which are our children. That is how, together, we are going to achieve the mission of this wonderful organization, which is to make our community a safer place for all people and a better community for children in the future. So thank you so much for inviting me this evening. I look forward to the yeses that I supported and helping my various colleagues in any of their needs as well. Thank you and God bless.
Infinite Pathways is a program where people suffering from substance use disorder can go seek help through the Fall River Police Department and receive it. So as I said, there are many services, but a lot of them have hours. STAR closes at a certain time. Other treatment facilities have closing hours. The police department is open 24/7. And so I asked Sergeant Steve Burt, who is involved in this, in the name of the Chief of Police, will you assist individuals suffering from substance use disorder through the Infinite Pathways program?
The police department has a goal of helping all people who are in need, so any of those issues that arise, the police department will do the best they can to support those people in their recovery.
So that's a yes, for the sake of our board.
Yes.
That's a yes. Thank you. We learned that recovery from addiction takes time. We heard this over and over again. The people that we spoke to over and over again. It takes time to recover. More time than insurance companies are willing to pay for, and more beds than Fall River has available. And so I asked State Representatives Fiola and Sylvia, will you support Governor Baker's bill to have opioid and vaping product manufacturers fund public health initiatives, for example, more services and more beds, in the final state budget?
So you want some commentary on that?
Yes, I have a second question that goes with it, so you can take your
20 minutes. We only get one. We only get one.
All right, good. You can take your minute now. Go ahead. You want to take, but it's got to be a real minute, and I'll talk fast. Okay. The second one is, will you work for more funding for more long-term treatment beds? We've heard that over and over again. Yes, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lou. And first, I'd like to just, before I begin my answer, and just acknowledge Richard here. I don't know how many of you know Richard, but I know him and have known him for many years, and he is the most remarkable young man. He's one of the top in his class. He was in high school, on to college, a top college. He's just remarkable. What a strong young man. Wow. So the opioid crisis has ravished us, okay? I see many faces out here in the audience that I have worked with extensively since my first moment as a state representative and placed on the Committee for Mental Health and Substance Use Disorder. I was placed on that committee as the epidemic was growing here around Fall River, around the state, and around the country, primarily due to, obviously, now we see the fentanyl being introduced, and it's ravishing us. However, we have also spent the last 5.5 years providing tens of millions of dollars to put those funds in all those toolboxes that you have mentioned. You mentioned River to Recovery. I see Kevin out here. They're a funded program. You mentioned, is there enough beds? There'll never be enough beds right now, but what we have to do is be more effective in finding placements when people go to these triage centers and to the emergency rooms, and we're doing that now. Also, I'm placed on a commission for what's called recovery coaches. They're a tool that is very, very important and being billed, so we can bill for their services. And there's someone that meets someone in addiction where they're at. And what I mean is whatever stage they're at in trying to come to recovery, and they're a critical tool, and we're growing that tool. This budget alone for the state, for Bureau of Substance Abuse Services, is over $141 million that we've placed, which is over $10 million than last time. So we are, I would like to also announce, we just announced 26 new programs that provide beds around the state. Stepping Stone has got some new residential beds for men. We have just announced a grant for recovery support centers. I believe in our last meeting, you asked about those recovery support centers. And here in Fall River, Stepping Stone was awarded through their peer-to-peer program, this recovery support center where people can come in their recovery process as well and be referred to all the agencies and tools they need to stay in recovery, referred to River to Recovery. We know this is a very deep and complex problem.
you.
A minute doesn't answer it, nor does probably a day, an hour, or a week. But thank you very much.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay, I know I'm limited to a minute. You know, this is one of the greatest things I love about working with Rep. Fiola is after she's finished, no one wants to listen to me. I want to thank UIA. This is incredible. You know, the mayor mentioned how many people were here, an unusual forum. It is unusual. He wasn't just using those words. We need to do more things like this in the community, because sometimes there's misinformation as well, and we can clear some of those things up. You know, that's right. Our offices are open here in the city every day. It's great to hear the emotion as well and hear the stories, but I'm so glad you're hearing it, because we live it. We live it as well. So many people come to us with family members who have issues. And let me tell you something about beds. I don't think anyone should have to call a politician to get a bed. And it was in the past that people thought that you could call you and we would advocate. We advocate for everyone. We want those people who are in need, who need services, to get the services they need. So we're not adversaries. Sometimes the tone sounds like sometimes that we are against, we are working in partnership with all of you and the
Thank you
church
so much.
to do all of the good things possible.
Thank you. We have one short question left. Okay. So we learned that prevention and it's for Superintendent Malone. I'm going to give you a little intro. We learned that prevention has to start before age 12. High school, even middle school, may be too late to prevent a person from starting drugs and alcohol. We need people to know early and often that prescription drugs can be addictive the first time you use them. These life lessons and more can be taught in the Life Skills program, which is already partially being implemented in Fall River Public Schools. And so I asked Superintendent Malone, there's a gray pickup truck, oh, I can't read this number, 8-something-4CF7. Mayor needs to leave, so please, if you have a gray pickup truck, license plate 894CF7, could you please move your vehicle? Okay, somebody's moving. Okay.
We got a ticket for you.
The question, so Superintendent Malone, if that's your truck, you might have to wait a second, okay?
Hey, I'm staying overnight here. Come on.
It's a last question. Will you be willing to increase the implementation of life skills in more Fall River Public Schools? Yes, all right, awesome.
Do I get my minute?
You get your minute.
All right,
yes.
so we implement the Botvin Life Skills program at the elementary level. We have several programs at the middle level and our whole health curriculum, which is mandated by the state through the secondary level. This is a real issue for all of us, but it does take a team. Let me just say one thing. Richard Cabral, who is a proud Durfee High School graduate, one of our finest, correct me if I'm wrong, but currently at Holy Cross in Worcester, Massachusetts, the College of Holy Cross, which we can be so proud of. Give him a round of applause.
Superintendent, you couldn't get in there, could you, when you were applying?
No, but neither could Representative Fiola. We both tried and failed. But let me just say this. It truly does take a village. I have my teachers union president here. Can we please get a round of applause for our teachers? Because it's the teachers who made Richard's path possible. And I just want to finally end with this, because I don't get to talk like this ever in my official capacity. But my entire industry, everyone that works for me, we're blessed to be provided with the guidance of St. Michael of service. We act in the best interests of St. Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits. Why? Because service and education is what our work is all about. So when we think about our core values, all of our core values, no matter what denomination or whatever the word is, whatever it is, all of our core values are the same. We care about people, we care about humanity, and we're all in this for improvement. So with that, I thank you for your time, and this has been a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Hi. So thank you for everyone for coming. Thank you for the people in the back. Mr. Paul Coogan, how you doing? Thank you for coming. Stephen Kamara, thank you for coming. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. So as a recap, I'm so sorry. It's not over yet, but as a recap, after months of meetings, after months of going out there for meetings, and we were able to organize and put our proposals, and on the board there, you'll see that we got some yeses and we got some maybes, and no matter what the answer was, we're always ready to follow up. The UIA was always ready to follow up because that's what we do. It's an inclusive organization. It invites all churches and congregations to unite and to make efforts to improve our community. Faith-based. Now, it was mentioned early on, it's faith-based, and that's what really gives us the opportunity to, and the power to get involved in our communities. So, I need you all to do something for me, if it's possible. Can you stand up? Can you stand up? Can you stand up? Who cares about their community? I got one question for you. Do our actions matter? Yes. One more time. Say it like you mean it. Say it like you mean it. Yes. Do our actions matter? Yes. Thank you very much for coming out. Thank you very much. We got one more thing, Mr. Reverend Jim.
I'm Reverend Jim. Such you could stay standing. It's got time to stretch. I'm Reverend Jim Hornsby from St. Luke's Church over on Warren Street, and I'm a supporter and leader in UIA. I support the issues we've raised. They're big ones. They are really big. And I've been involved, unfortunately, or fortunately, in some of them. Education, my children, the children of our parish. I've been on the school committee. Addiction. I have 2 relatives seriously ill, one alive. Immigration. St. Luke's Church has been a church of immigrants for more than 100 years. Yes. For you who have attended, pick up a sign-up card. Where is the sign-up card? Here it is. Here it is, and the people on the table can do it too. Get the sign-up card in. If you don't have a card, use anything. We want you to stay in touch. We hope that you will walk the walk of faith with us, because that's what trying to do. We have regular gatherings. We have issues to discuss. We've mentioned these issues have come out of months of meetings. And for our guests, thank you. Thank you very much for coming. We plan to follow up. And all of you have said you'll talk some more. Dialogue is important because that dialogue implies that we will change our thinking. Yes, I don't have a sign. And for all of us, prayer. Remember UIA, remember the group, remember all the people in prayer. However you do it, Protestant, Catholic, Anglican, Unitarian, Muslim, Jewish, Seventh-day Adventist, and especially remember our elected and appointed officials. And stay active. Stay active. Oh, yes, there's another one next week in New Bedford. I'm going to see what they do. And you're all welcome a week from tonight at Our Lady of the Assumption on Rivet Street. Did I get it right? What? Okay, what was the street again? South 6th Street. Oh. You know, I'm from Fall River. And that's it for me. Father Tom Washburn and Odette Amarella will close the meeting.
My name is Father Tom Washburn. I'm from the Catholic community of Central Fall River, which includes St. Mary's Cathedral, St. Anthony of Padua Church, Good Shepherd Church, and St. Stanislaus Church. And as we conclude our wonderful evening of community tonight, I invite everyone to bow their heads in prayer. We hear from the prophet Micah, "You have been told, O mortal, what is good, and what the Lord requires of you, only to do justice, and to love goodness, and to walk humbly with your God." Good and gracious God, as we end our time together tonight, we pray that your Spirit may rule over all things. May your Spirit rule over kings and presidents, over governors and mayors, over CEOs and the legislature, and over all of us, your citizens. May your Spirit guide us on the way of peace, on the way of honest dialogue, on the way of reconciliation between peoples, on the way of disarmament and justice, on the way of freedom and life for all. May your Spirit lead us on the journey of blessings shared with all, on the journey of educational opportunity for all our children, on the road to meaningful work for all men and women, on the road to healing for all those struggling with addiction, on the journey to find a welcoming home for all refugees and immigrants, and for all people on the path of solidarity and love between all our brothers and sisters. May your Spirit help us to speak up with courage, to share what we have in abundance, and to help us to know what we need to challenge in our world, so that we can offer a message of liberation and life and hope. Help our conversation tonight move forward into positive action for the good of all in our community. And may the God of us all guide us, help us, and bless us this night so that we can do justice, love goodness, and walk humbly with our God. Amen.
Wow, let's if it's possible for you to still stay standing, that would be wonderful. Well, we know for sure why we are here in this gathering. We also know for sure we cannot sacrifice one more child. The buttons inside the jar, as I mentioned to you, are the symbol of the children that were sacrificed. Before you leave tonight, take a button out of your garment and put inside the jar representing the sacrifice you made to be here tonight. One way to end a sacrifice is by making a sacrifice.
Our choir from St. Anthony of Padua will now sing a song. And I would like to thank everyone for coming. It's been a nervous day. You could probably detect it in my voice. Start singing. Go make a difference. I'd like to thank St. Anthony of Padua, Santa Cristo Choir, Eric, and thank Father Cabral and Father Kosick for supporting us. And it was our pleasure to host this event. Thank you. And please turn in your cards on the way out. Thank you.